driver check-in, lineup creation, transponder integration, results, MRP Live, points calculations and setup, and payouts. So we're going to go through all of that here. This is the test racetrack that I have here. And we're just going to go right into race management. And we're going to go work in this 360s class right here. So I have a few different options as far as what I want to be doing with pill draw and what I want to be doing with transponders. Today, since I'm going to be using orbits, I'm going to be using the transponders, allowing rentals, and putting that information in here. What I'm going to be doing is just sort of a general lineup setups. I'm going to show you some of the other things that we can do just with some of the base lineups that we have here in the system. So I'm going to be doing the fast check-in process, this auto draw after driver selection. It's going to pick a number for me just when I select a driver. I do have other options here. I can choose to draw a number, have a driver click the number, draw it before I select a driver or after I select a driver. I also can do it manually if I'd like to as well. So I can just put in a number, say if I had things here to do that. I'm able to set the maximum number for that pill. Let's go a little nuts. Let's adjust that for us today. So I'm going to go to 200. I also can rebase the pill. So what that means is that I can set a new low number for the pill. It's going to default to 1. That's normally the best number that you can draw. But if I wanted to, I could say that 100 was the best number that I could draw. And so if I did that, 100 would be the best number I could draw, and 99 would be the worst. So you just kind of move things along there. Since I changed things, I'm also able to switch the defaults for this. So every week I have the same thing that I want to be doing. This is generally how we do things. You can see all my other classes kind of default to 100 and that 1 for the rebase and the transponder options. So I can save this as a default. Once I get kind of rolling, you don't really have to adjust things in this page too often, but you do have that option there. Since I changed things, I'll have to go down here to the bottom, click save. It'll update all of those changes. All of those are made here. And then we can get started with some of the other things here. We're going to go down to MRP Live, and I'm going to launch MRP Live from web. And we're going to show you how to connect MRP Live into orbits. So since I've already got this set up, it's going to kind of pull everything over and remember what I did. So I don't have to do that, but I'm going to show you how to do it here. So we got this disconnected so we can see what I'm doing. We got orbits right here. So let's go. This is orbits 5.3. Let's go into our scoreboard settings, and we're going to pop in this here. So what I've done, I've taken this IP address right here. I've copied this and put that into here. So this IP address here, this string of numbers, I copied that. That's going to be specific to you. So this is my individual IP address. Generally, this won't change too often unless you changed internet providers. There's some ways it can change, but generally not. I'm going to have that here. You also have this TCP/IP port, and it's 50,000. I copied that and I put that right here. Generally, it's 50,000. I have seen other numbers in the past, but it's fairly common for it to be 50,000. But you'll need to double check right here in the scoreboard settings with that. All right, some other things here. We have this MRP Live connection code. So the MRP Live connection code, each event that we have in MyRacePass has its own connection code, its own live code. When I hit launch from web, it copied this into this box here for me. That's why I recommend doing that. So I don't have to copy and paste it, but I could if I wanted to. Copy and paste this live code. This is going to be different for each event on your schedule. So if I was to switch to the 8th the other event on my schedule, it'll switch. It'll have a different code. We can even go in there and see. So you can see much different code in there. Let's also take a look at this bottom part here, the assignments path. So the assignments path is where I'm going to be pulling my file from. So right now I have its own folder here. So when I send the lineups, it's going to go into that file right over there, and I can pull from that folder. You can put this to be anywhere you want it to be. I personally like to put this on my desktop so that it's easy for me to find and pretty straightforward. I also recommend that you have some sort of system for sorting this here in orbits so that you know which dates or which groups and runs go to where. If you can definitely have it as the same folder, just make sure that you clear it out from night to night so you know who's supposed to be where. Let's see what I mean by there. Let me try this one more time here. Launch this from web. All right, so we are good to go here, and everything I got here is working fine. So we're going to send this down. We'll come back to this in just a minute when we get to the lineup screen. Now remember, again, you can hit Alt and H if you have any questions about that, about MRP Live, about using orbits along with MRP Live, how that would work. Feel free. You can message me directly in that chat window, or you can message it so that everyone can see. Either way, I'm not picky. You get to choose there. So we're going to go into entries. I already have one class's entries filled out. That's totally fine. We're just going to go into that 360 sprint class right up here. Your classes will be different maybe than mine, but that's totally fine. So you can just switch up the classes here and we're ready to go. Right here, I have a list of every driver that is in my profiles list. You can actually see that right over here inside of managed drivers. Let's make this a little bit more. My guys are all real troopers. They race in everything. These are all my drivers. You can see these are the default car numbers and the default transponder numbers. For some of these drivers have already been set. We can do that a couple different places. Again, though, if you want to review that, you can see that in managed drivers up here. You can also view that inside of season management. That's a place you can go to in season management. Let's close that tab. So let's say a driver shows up to race. He says his name is Corey Coldcuts. So we'll take a look at Corey here. We'll click on him. We're going to see a couple things about Corey. So he has his default car number in here as the 85. Looks like he did that when we did online registration. We have his address on file. He has claimed his profile. We have his age here too. We can put in owner information for him here if we'd like. So we can just click this magnifying glass. We can see that he has another car in the system. We also can see all of the other owners that I have that race here, or just look through all owners. So let's add another team here. So we can just add a team. It'll ask if I want to add in a car. I sure do. It has my class here, and he is the number 85. So we can just add in that our walkthrough is the 85. We can put that in. We're good to go. So we can set this as a default team for him. So every time he shows up with this class, we can say that he always has this owner. We also can do the same for the payout. So we can say every single time that he shows up from here to the future, he's going to have this same owner, and we're going to pay that owner at the end of the night. So we can put that right here. We also can just exit out and move on if we'd like to. We also can put in a transponder right here. If I click on it, you're going to see that it pops up a couple of different numbers for me. Those are numbers that he's used in the past at other places. So I'm going to put in the 1004. So we can just ask him if he still uses the 1004. We can also set this as his default transponder. So if he just owns that transponder. He's going to be using it every week. We don't have to keep putting it in. We're just going to put that right there. We also can mark if the transponder is rented or not. So we can keep track of that information right here. The last box right here is this lineup override. So we can start at the back of all heats or all races. So let's say this is Corey's first race. He does not feel comfortable being in the front. Not that, he'd be that well with the 72, but, let's say that he's going to start in the back of all races, or he showed up late. And we don't want him to do that. So we're just going to set him to the back of all the heats. So no matter what, he's going to go to the back. No matter what the lineup would say otherwise, he'd go to the back for those heats. So that's what we're going to do. He'll get a special little icon next to his name in the lineup. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. So that was one driver entered. We could totally keep going through here, finding other drivers, entering them in this way. But we have other ways that we can enter in drivers in the system. So let's take a look at all of those. The first one here is you're going to see that he has a golden helmet right here. What that means is he has claimed his profile. Claiming a profile of the driver does a lot of really cool things. So it lets you share your photos and videos, your schedule. It lets all these results are going to go into this profile, and he can share those out. He basically has like a driver's Facebook page, like a Facebook page for drivers, if you will. But another cool thing that he gets is having this gold helmet here is that when he logs into the MyRacePass app using the account he used to claim his profile, he's actually able to go here and have a barcode that you could scan. So you have that scan barcode option right up there. You could scan his phone and check him in right from there. So it'll pull up that information for you guys. Some drivers, for various reasons, might also have the hard cards. Those you could scan those as well. They're about the size of a credit card. We issued those out, and you can scan their barcode and pull them in here. So you have a lot of different options there as far as that goes. And a driver could do both. So a driver can have a hard card and claim his profile. Those will both go to the same barcode. It won't interfere or anything like that. So the driver has a lot of different options here as far as that goes. Again, if you have any questions about that, anything that I've been going through here, don't be afraid to ask any questions. That's going to be the Alt and H for that chat. So that's going to be where you can ask any of those. It doesn't have to be about anything that I'm doing right here. It could be something down the line that you want to see. Let me know, and I'll be answering all of those here for you guys. So just let me know, and we'll get you going. Another way we can enter in drivers here is this search. So let's say we have a driver who, for whatever reason, is just not on this list. He's never raced with us before. We just don't have him. So we could actually just search for him up here at the top and find him. We also could create a brand new driver if one is not available. So we'd search and create a brand new driver right from here. Some things that I will warn you about, though. You totally can use this search. It'll work out great. It'll search through everybody in the MyRacePass network. Works out really good. I would totally recommend using this filter first, so that you can use this filter, and that's going to make sure that you use the guys that you have available right here. Also, I recommend searching for the last name first. The reason is, if you have someone, let's say his name is John, and he introduces himself as Jonathan, if you search for Jonathan, you're not going to find that John profile first, because you'll put in Jonathan and his last name, and then it'll try to find a Jonathan instead of a John. Plus, the last name is a little bit more consistent with spelling variations and things. If you were to create that second profile, it'll treat them as if they're two separate people with just very similar names. And we don't want to do that, because that will split their results. They would have different results, different profiles. We can fix it, we can totally move all the results over. It'd be totally fine. But it can be really confusing for a driver to have that going on there. Also, when you're creating a brand new driver, it's going to ask for that hometown. It's going to make you put in a hometown. Do that. Do not skimp out on that. Don't just put in one character and move on. The reason is that we double check all of those. So if you put in the hometown in the name, so let's say I put in Corey Coldcutt spelled exactly like this with Obo, South Carolina as his hometown, it's going to flag it and say, hey, we already have a Corey Coldcutt from Obo, South Carolina. This is that guy. So it's one other layer that we have to make sure that we don't have any duplicates in the system. If you encounter any duplicates, though, let me know. I'm happy to combine everything together for you guys and get that fixed. Let me know if you find any. Try to avoid them as much as you can. A driver should only have one profile, really forever. So if you do find a driver that has more, I'm very interested in finding those and getting those fixed. Also, if you find any drivers that have Z's in front of their names, that is also a duplicate. So if you scan a card and it has a whole bunch of Z's in the front or in the first or the last name, and that's not his real name, then you know that that is a duplicate that is going to be merged at some point. We're going to merge that profile. So keep on the lookout for that. That would be what that would mean. So what's some of the other ways that we can enter in drivers? We can import from a previous event. So if we had a 2-day show that went Friday into Saturday, and we knew that the drivers from one day were going to be the same as the drivers from another, we could actually import them over. It'll copy over their pill numbers. It'll copy over their transponder numbers if we'd like. And we just import them over, and it's good to go. I like to keep this box open here. This is what that draw window would look like if we had them draw. Oh, and that's why I'm not a race car driver, ladies and gentlemen. That's why it's just never worked out. We're also able to enter in those transponder numbers over here as well, which I'm going to be doing here. Got those entered. The last thing that I'm going to be doing for entering in drivers is the speed entry button right down here. Now with this speed entry button, when I just click a driver over here, it's just going to pop him in here, unless I have a duplicate car number or a duplicate transponder number already entered in. The system will let me know if I have any duplicates, because we don't want any of them. While I'm entering in these transponder numbers, feel free to ask any questions that you have. It's going to be Alt and H is the place to ask any questions that you have. And don't be shy about that. Enter in these pill numbers, not pill numbers, enter in these transponder numbers. We're also going to be looking here. Let's say I've made a mistake. So this driver here, the 23, I just went way too fast. He is not the 23. He is actually the 88. So we can actually adjust that here. We can add an owner information if he just like, oh man, I actually do have an owner. It's this guy, this really long name here. And the owner's gonna get paid here. We can actually adjust that here too. Adjust the transponder. We can even actually set him to the back too. Let's just say we just don't like the guy. We could just send him to the back. Or we could do that. We just felt the need. So you always can adjust that here too. So keep that in mind. Let's go down into races. So we can actually, something that's new from previous years is this previous races. You can, if you'd like, I think you have at least 50. You can copy setups that you've done in the past. So I could definitely just copy over how I've set up my races here, but I'm going to kind of show you some of the different things we can do and just kind of set up manually. For me, with 10 entries, I can do one heat and one A feature. I could do more than that if I wanted to. I can go all the way down to a Z feature. I can add features, heats, dashes, qualifying, specials, and hot laps. And I could add more than one if I wanted to. So I could add multiple heats, add in my laps, how many go to tech. But we're going to add it right here. If I've have more, so let's say just a whole bunch of people showed up, I could add more heats here. I could also add more races up at the top here too if I wanted to. I have a lot of options as far as that goes. But the main thing that we're going to want to do in this screen is we're going to want to know who's moving on to the next step. So for me, this is going to be pretty easy. With 10 drivers, we're just going to say everyone's going. But I could get pretty specific if I want. By default, it's going to go to per race. So what I mean by that, let's say I have this setup right here. So with 2 heats, 4 per race, it's going to be 4 from heat 1, 4 from heat 2, give me 8 transferring to the A feature. The other one here, this from group, is used for passing points. So this would give me 4 drivers overall. You can kind of see the main difference there. So let's get rid of that. We also can set however many drivers per row we want. It's going to be 2 by default and everything except qualifying, which will be 1. But we can go 1, 2, or 3 wide. We can also add in sponsor information. I could rename this heat if I wanted to. We can go pretty insane with this, the level of detail that we'd like here. Let's save these changes. We're good here. Again, feel free, while I'm on kind of a halfway mark, feel free to ask any questions. Alt and H, the spot to ask any questions. Do not be afraid. If you have a question, odds are someone else here also has a question. So feel free to ask those. Moving right along, we're going to go into lineups. Now we could definitely just add in the lineups here, click them as they are, click these X's to remove them. Definitely good to know just in case, but what I would recommend doing instead is we're going to calculate those lineups. The first time we do this, it's going to ask what we want to do here. So we can always go back here by clicking this gear. And that's going to be right here. So this lineup settings right here, you can see all of my different A, B, C features. We have a lot. So instead of having to go through this giant list every single time, we're going to be selecting right from here. So I've kind of narrowed that down to the ones that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to use this. You can see all of the heat lineups right here. So we're going to go here. And we're just going to calculate that out. I do have some questions that people have sent in. I will be answering those, and I'm going to get to every single one of those when they are appropriate or after I get through everything. So if you've asked and I haven't answered it, don't be afraid. I will be going over it in just a sec. So you can see here we have everybody lined up. Remember when I sent this guy to the back, you can see he has his own special little icon. We're also going to say it's using this lineup heat from pill drop. It's going to ask how is this calculated, and we can see here. Oh man, this guy drew real bad. We can see exactly how it lined up. You're going to see this asterisk, and that's going to mean it sent him to the back because of what I did. If we need to, we can move people around. If this driver showed up late, we could click and drag him where he needs to be. Update, discard changes, all kinds of things in here. We're also able to share this to Facebook and Twitter right from this screen. We have a lot of other options as well, including this lineup monitor. The lineup monitor adjusts the lineups as they happen. So I can have this screen hooked up to somewhere in the pits, for example. And this will actually update the lineups as I'm creating them. And as I put them into results, it'll move those out of the way and put in other lineups instead. So it's keeping current. Drivers and fans are also going to be able to view this right from the MyRacePass app. As soon as I hit calculate, they're able to see that right from the app. So very cool things here. We're going to send the lineups now. This is where MRP Live is going to come into play. We're going to send those lineups. It's going to say, hey, the lineups are sent. So let's take a look. We were going to go import groups and runs. It's going to ask me to select a file that I want to use that with. I just happened to be using this earlier today. So this is actually the folder, this 3.4 folder. So I'm going to select the runs and open them. Then when I hit next, it's going to import all of them. Here are my heats. So it'll actually, when I send all of those races, it'll send all of the ones that are in lineup mode. For me, I only had one race in lineup mode, so it just sent the one. If I had other races that I had created lineups for, it would send all of them all at once. So you don't have to send it every single time. You'd actually send it in one big batch if you'd like. Now, since I don't have the benefit of having a whole bunch of race cars here that I can just have in the office racing around, I'm going to have to use this track simulator. You will have the benefit of having the full thing here. So we're going to go into timing. And this here, this MRP Live is going to, give me one sec. We're going to reload that here. It's going to be showing you what a fan would see. You also can view it too. What people are going to see in MyRacePass. So we're going to just kind of pretend these are my race cars. So they're off. They're going across the line. I can definitely do things in orbits here. If I need to throw caution, it'll show what's happening up here. When the drivers cross, it's going to be updating. I'm going to keep this over here in a separate screen just so that I can keep this real estate good to go here. If I want to, I can just click my favorite driver and follow it. Fans are able to do that too. So we're able to view that here. And again, lots of this here, everything that I'm doing is viewing on the app. So this is pretty much what they will see right from the MyRacePass app. Let's throw that finish flag. It's going to finish. You see it's going to update here. Let's stop these guys. The main thing that we're going to want to remember is when we hit stop right here, that's the cue that we can go into results. So we're going to go into results now. I've hit the stop button and it says, hey, you've recently, you can see here, completed that heat. So we'll click it through and it's going to import them over. So we can double check everything. We can view if they did not finish, did not start, we're disqualified, we're black flagged. If you're using passing points, you can put in the no passing points right over here. You're also able to move this around. So, you know, in the event that, let's say this driver forgot to charge his transponder, you know, it's a rare occurrence, but it does happen. You can click and drag it and move them up where they would have finished and hit save. When we hit save down at the bottom here, that's going to be posted to, if you have a MyRacePass website, it'll be going to the website. It'll also go right to the app. So very cool. You can always update this if you need to. This isn't set in stone. So if we do get a word back from tech that they did word disqualified, we could click that, save it as completed, and it'll update for me. But this is kind of us saying that we saved it as completed, and we'll go right back up to lineups. So everything's going to kind of go in order. So when we go to lineups, it's going to go to the next race that I have lined up for here. For me, the next race that was scheduled was an A feature. So I have my A feature. I'm going to calculate my lineups, and I'm going to do draw redraw today. That just sounds like fun. So I'm going to select this. It's going to be a straight up just how they finished in the heat. It's going to determine where they are. So we're going to calculate that up here. There we go. It does it by the finish. Over here in lineup options, I can invert drivers if I wanted to. So if I wanted to invert 4, I could. You're going to see that flash, and then it just has inverted everybody. We just sent them back to where they were. I also can have them redraw. So I'm going to do that. Let's have them redraw. Let's say the top 4. I can have them draw here and I can put the numbers in. I can redraw each individually, or in my case, I'm just going to redraw every one of them. So we're just going to auto redraw. It's just drawing the numbers here. And you're going to see, based on how they drew, it's going to put these little numbers here up the top. Now, have you ever seen this little 3 circle thing? This one right here, that's the share button. You can share that out to Facebook and Twitter right from here. You also can do that in results, and I'll show you where that is when we get back to results. So let's send the lineups. We're just going to be repeating everything over. And then I've made new lineups, so I need to import those over again. When I sent them, that did that. So we're going to import again. We have our runs right here. Right from the same folder, we're going to import. It's going to look very similar to how we did heats. Import's done. I think I need to save that one more time. So let's give that one more. Let's send that one more time. There we go. So import groups and runs. There we go. You ever have that happen where it just seems like it didn't go? Just try sending them again, like I just did there. Sending them multiple times isn't going to affect anything, and I just tried importing it one more time. Worked out. Just tried it one more time, and then we have everybody here. So I'm going to run a really quick A feature. So let's set that to 4. We're just going to go. All right, in the first lap, we're just going to have them go across this here. And all right, they're done. What a race. What a race. So we're good here. Again, we're going to hit this stop button. So you can see here in the results, it hasn't gone yet. So it just doesn't know that the race is over because we haven't stopped it. So when we hit stop, say it's going to confirm that's going to be it. We need to refresh this page. And when we refresh it, there it is. There's our A feature. And we did that here. Pulled that over, and everybody's where they need to be. Here's that share icon that I was showing before. So we could share this again to our Facebook and Twitter page. And when we hit this save button right here, that'll be shared out public. You can actually click this right here. If we don't want to do that, say that we just kind of want to wait. This is our A feature. We want to wait for tech to come back before I declare anything out public. And that's totally fine. We can just save as unofficial or in progress. I'm just going to do, I know that all of my test drivers are fine, upstanding gentlemen, and they would never do anything to get an unfair advantage. So, so I'm just going to save as completed and just kind of roll with that. So let's move right on down to points and pay. Now, before I started today, I've actually added in my points and pay in advance. You can actually see up here in settings, the same is going to be in season management. In the settings, there's going to be point schemes. Our points and pay are going to be set here. So if you want to take a look, I've actually created in 2018, this is kind of how I do. Mine's pretty straightforward. It's just an A feature and 1 point down for everything here. And then there's heat points as well. I can also put in start and non-start pay, and let's kind of go over that. How would I do that? So if I wanted to create a new pay scheme, let's say today was special. So you can click here. You can see I actually have a lot of options here as global presets. So if you have a sanction, IMCA, a USRA, WSOTA, you actually already have those set, so we can actually pick those. This is a pay scheme, so I don't need to worry about that right now. Let's just call this March 4th pay. And add scheme. Since I already have an existing scheme, it's going to try to be as helpful as possible. Ask if I just want to copy things over. I don't right now. We're just going to get an A feature breakdown for pay. So I'm going to click this add breakdown, and we're going to add A feature pay. It's going to have this kind of thing right here. So this will work for both points and pay. I can do them both combined. I'm doing mine separately, just so that I don't have to keep repeating my points every single time. So I can just kind of go through a little bit quicker. So I'm just going to do 10 positions. So first place is going to get, $80 sounds good. And let's decrease pay by 50. So when I hit this add rows button, it's going to create 10 rows, give me my first place is 800, and decrease each of those rows by 50. It'd do the same for points too if I wanted. So let's do that. And there we go. So $50 down for each one that I did. If I want to adjust it, let's say, actually after this point, everyone just gets 400. I could do that and just tab over or click it, save it. So I'm not kind of locked into that. You can get a good baseline. We also could set show up points, show up pay. We also, when we're adding in breakdowns, we can add in B feature. So let's say just everyone gets $100 if you're in my B feature. We could do that. But when we do that, let's say, hey, we don't want anybody that transfers out of the B to get pay. When we create that, you can just click this button right here, this A feature, and that'll mean anybody that's transferred out won't receive any points or pay. It'll go to the first non-qualifier. So the first person that didn't make it won't get this. If you do have any questions about that too, answering all the questions here. We're almost through, and I'll get to the questions phase. But again, that's Alt and H if you do have any questions about this and how this will work. Start points will go to everybody that's taken the green flag. We can set that they don't receive show up points too. So if we don't want anybody in the A feature to get show up points, we can. And this one right down at the bottom is for drivers who did not finish a lap ever. So if they just did not start any of the races that they were in, you can give them points and pay here. So that's what that's going to mean. So now we have our points and pay scheme. We've created one. Let's add that into our race. So we're going to add in, like I said, I have my point scheme separate from my pay scheme. So down here at the bottom, we can apply this to the schedule. So I'm just going to apply that to my normal season schedule. Apply that to competitors, owners, or teams. And if for any reason I wanted a driver to not receive points, I could click their name here and they'll just receive pay. Let's add. Let's see how everything shook out. So you can see that all of my points and pay have been set up here. We can adjust it if we'd like as well. So if I wanted to add or remove, let's say I just did not like how this guy is, so I'm just going to get rid of $20. I just don't like him. He doesn't get $20 extra. We could. We're going to save it and that'll update it here. We can also be nice and add in pay, however we wanted to do that. If I made a mistake, let's say I actually didn't want to do that point scheme. I wanted to do this point scheme instead. That's fine. You can do the same with pay. We're just going to recalculate it down here. And when I do that, it's going to adjust the points here. Based on how I got everything going. So let's create some payments. So you see the drivers that I said to pay owners actually have taken over right here. I'm able to create a check. So I can put in a check number. And when we create it, I'm able to print those checks out. Here, it's going to have that to receipt copy. I also, when I'm in this payment screen, I can export this to QuickBooks, and I also have a report here too. It's going to show me check numbers and things, so I could give this to whomever I need. I also have a variety of other reports here too. Reports I haven't even gone over, but we can go, if I need the entry list, I can have that here. Let's refresh that here. There you go. So you refresh that, get that. Transponder list, so if I had drivers that rented a transponder, we can have them sign out on that. Let's take a look here. So you can see I have some drivers here that rented a transponder, so I might have them sign out with that. And also, a variety of different lineup reports. And one that a lot of folks like is this points by race. This gives me my A feature and what they got just on the A feature, so their points and their pay. So these 410 guys, we don't really need to worry about them. We worked in 360s. You can see that pay here. We're also able to customize this a little bit. So if I didn't really care about the start or the points really, or the car number, we just wanted a signature box, driver, and where they finished, we could do that here. Awesome. So that would be real quick how to kind of set up and run everything here. So I got a question here about if they have to call us, if they're using checks. No. So you don't have to do that. You just have to have the right model number for checks. It actually says here at the bottom, it'll let me create a check again. This DLT 103/SSLLT 103, that's the model number of the check, the kind of print layout that it's going to be expecting. So if you actually go into the help desk and look up checks, it's going to have a link where you can go acquire those checks if you'd want, but you can just go and create those if you'd like. So feel free to do that. Go. You have that there. You also have a spot directly for payments in season management, and that'll keep track of all those payments and those checks in one spot. So some of the other questions that came up, again, I'm going to leave it open for questions for a little bit. If you have any questions, Alt and H is the place to do that. I'm going to answer some of the questions that came in here but don't be afraid to ask any more questions, but I'm going to answer some that came in while I was talking about other things. So I had one about if it tells you where they've paid yearly registration. We do. It's actually going to be down at the bottom. So let me see if I have a driver that has completed registration. Some of my drivers haven't, some of them haven't. It's actually going to be down here. This confirmed memberships. So when I confirm them in registration, it'll actually put down here in the bottom that they did that. So let's, real quick, I'm going to divert over and add in a registration for this guy. And we'll show you how that works. So we're just going to assume that he filled out his information. It's actually going to pull it from the contact list when I enter him in another time. So if we go back to race management and into my entries, so I registered him in late models there. I kind of skipped a few steps than normal, just to kind of show here. It would show right here. So when I confirmed him, that actually would show that he did pay if I accepted payments through online registration, which you can. You can actually link up to a PayPal account, and then when you confirm, it'll show right down there. And it also shows has the address on file right there too. That address, by the way, is also on the checks. So if we have their address, that's going to be in the contact list, which we'll show you here in season management. That contact list is going to be where it's pulling those addresses from. So the best way to do that is in online registration, and that's going to put that contact information in here. But you could fill it in manually if you didn't want to. See that the drivers that have a green check mark are the ones that did that. Had another request to cover passing points again. So the passing point, let's go down here. So the way that we would do passing points is this from group. So the big difference here is this is going to be out of every single race, and this is going to be out of this race type. So out of the best out of all of the heats. So if we click this will take, let's add some heats to kind of make it a better example. So if I was to say the top 5 out of every heat per race, this gives me 15 drivers because I'll have 5 from here, 5 from here, and 5 from here. But if I did from group 5, that's going to pick the best 5 based on how I select them. So for me, that's going to be out of passing point scheme. If I did passing points, it's going to be on the lineup level as to who is the top from there. Because depending on how we set up our lineup, depending on how we set up our passing points, that's going to be different there. And then if we're doing from group, we'd probably want to take 15 from group. If you do per race 15, that'll give me everybody probably, because that'd be 15 out of every single race. So if you ever have a situation where you thought that you transferred way less than that and you ended up with a ton more drivers than you thought you should have, double check your transfers, because you could have a situation if you're using passing points where you say 15 per race, which will give you, again, probably every single driver would have transferred out. So that would be that from group and per race there. Let's see, we have some other. I've had a question about the transponder numbers on the check-in sheet. So the transponder numbers would be on be a couple of different places you could find that. So and I'd recommend just having that. The transponder numbers will be on the list here, and then there's also this entry list sheet. This will just have their hometown and pill numbers, so this will just have that. I would recommend just using the full transponder list. Be good there. Oh, thanks, Josh. Answering in another question there about where you get the driver cards. So if you let me know, and Dan, I know you have my email. Let me know where you want those shipped out to, and roughly how many you'd think you'd need, and we can get those shipped out to you. And again, anybody that does not have my email, if you use that support email, include how many you'd want those shipped, how many you'll need, and where you want those shipped out to. We can get those hard cards sent out to you. Though, as noted in the chat, we are really trying to get drivers to use the app for hard cards. The main reason is that you're going to have a lot less drivers losing their phones as opposed to losing cards and things like that. So at least you'd hope that a driver could wouldn't lose their phone as much, but the driver could claim their profile and then use their phone to check in there. That was a great question. Any other questions? Feel free. I'm going to leave it open here for the next few minutes with Alton. Alton H is the place to do that, answering all the questions that we have for the next few minutes. Again, you can message me privately, and some folks have, or you can message everybody. I'm just happy to answer any questions that you have. Alton H there. So some of these other reports here, I kind of glossed over a lot of them here when we're talking about reports, but like I said, we have a few different lineup reports, so we actually get quite a few choices as far as reports. So let's say I wanted my lineups here. I can actually print them one per page if I wanted to. Let's say I just wanted that A feature that we did. So we can actually just click that and select just that A feature. Had a question here about which barcode scanner will read the glass there on the phone. Actually, if you go to in here in the help desk, there's going to be a link directly for that. If you actually search for scanner, these ones right here are going to go through. They're going to ask which ones here. This link right here on Amazon. This is one we recommend here, and I'm going to put that in the chat right there. But you can see where I kind of pulled that here. Oh, sorry, sent that to the wrong person. Sorry, sent that to a private message. I had a question about the check-in where they sign in. If the transponder number is on that last sheet, the transponder number wouldn't be on that last sheet there with the payout sheet. So there you go. Yep, you do need a special kind of transponder, not a special transponder, a special scanner. Sometimes these smartphones, they're a bit too bright, so it can throw some things off there. But that one there, that should get you going. And there's other ones as well. Got a question if we could be able to watch this again, and yes, as soon as I get done here, I hope to have this on YouTube in its own playlist here for webinars. Hope to have that done here very soon. Probably try to have that done by this week sometime. And we'll see if we can post a link to past webinars there. And I will also be having another webinar again tomorrow. Same time. This would be more IMCA specific. So if you are an IMCA track and want to see how we would do all of this with IMCA specifically, we'll be doing that again tomorrow. And as well, I'll be going over Westhold transponder integration. So pretty excited about that. It'll be a really good time. Again, that'll be right at noon, same time, and then also Wednesday and Thursday, be going over all of those as well. So, if you do want to sit in on those will also be recording and posting on YouTube there as well. So, again, answering any questions for you guys. If you have them, Alt and H, the place to do that. Some of the other reports here that we have, also that passing point report. I know we had a question there about passing points. That's going to ask for your passing point scheme. That's actually going to be managed in point schemes. So if you ever go to point schemes and you're going to actually see up here, this is season point schemes. These are things that drivers will earn and keep throughout the year. But then we also have lineup point schemes. Those are going to be how we're going to line up cars. So it's actually going to go off of those there. So if we actually click that passing point scheme, too many tabs, it's actually going to ask what we want to do, and we can use that there. Yep, and Josh also had a good point there. So with Soda drivers, if you are with Soda Track, they do get issued hard cards as part of their licensing there. So so you don't need to create a new one. Drivers can only have one card at a time. So if you made a new card for a driver, that'll kind of make the other card that they have not work. So you want to make sure that if you are with Soda Track, Race for Soda, make sure that you aren't kind of overriding any cards that those folks already have without a driver knowing about it. So. All right. So leave it open here for another couple minutes or so. If you have any questions about anything here, feel free. Anything at all. Could be anything I've gone over, or anything I haven't. Feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer those questions for you. One that I get sometimes is, what happens if someone shows up late? What do I do with the lineups? So if someone showed up late, we can always just check them in here. I personally would this person showed up late, I would set him to the back of all heats for being late. Tell him to show up earlier if he wants a better spot. And then when you go here to lineups, we'll actually be able to recalculate that. And I'm going to get rid of some of these extra heats because we don't need kind of rewriting history here. But you can see that he's going to be right here. So I have a couple of ways that I could do that. I could recalculate the whole thing and just do that again, heat from pill draw, or I could just click him where he needed to be. And you can see since I put that nice little arrow at the back, it's going to move him all the way back. Let's then click drivers here. So if you see that you ever have a driver that looks in a bit more, here, you actually click him and that'll show where he needs to be. If he's not in the entry list, if he's not grayed out there. All right, well, I think that we're good for today. If you do have any questions further, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. You can go to this help and support button here, view any videos. We do have a link to our YouTube page that'll have all of the webinars that we've done thus far and more. Or feel free to reach out to us. Always happy to help. Thanks so much for sitting in. Again, we'll be doing these at noon Central Time this week. So feel free to drop in on any others if you'd like, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Have a good one.